Welcome back, students. Now we will move to the next part of chapter 1. Before moving to the next part, we will revise some of the important things which we have studied during the online class also. Factors necessary for photosynthesis. Based on the explanations done in the previous part, write a note on factors necessary for photosynthesis. Factors necessary for photosynthesis are as follows. Number 1, chlorophyll. It is green pigment found in chloroplasts of plant cell. Its main function is to trap solar energy and utilize it to do reaction between carbon dioxide and water. Some leaves have yellow, red or brown pigments also. They can also do photosynthesis. However, white patches don't have any pigments and they can't do photosynthesis. Such leaves are termed as variegated leaves. Dried leaves become yellow and they cannot do photosynthesis. Carbon dioxide is taken by leaves through stomata. It combines with water to form glucose. Water is taken up by the xylem of the roots. Water splits to combine with carbon dioxide and it releases oxygen. So, oxygen gas which we are getting in the process of photosynthesis is coming from the water absorbed by the roots. This oxygen diffuses out through stomata. Whereas sunlight is the source of energy without which reaction between carbon dioxide and oxygen is not at all possible. Now, based on this above thing, what is the importance of photosynthesis? It is an important life process on the earth because it provides food for all living organisms, releases oxygen gas in the air for the survival of life on the earth, and maintains balance between levels of oxygen and carbon dioxide in the air. Now we move to the heterotrophic nutrition in plant. Heterotrophic means other. Trophic means nutrition. I had told you this in the online class also. Heteros means other living things and trophos means nutrition. So when a living organism depends on other living organism for its nutrition, then it is termed as heterotrophic. Find the term heterotrophic nutrition. If you remember from part 1, the type of nutrition in which organisms cannot synthesize their own food are called as heterotrophic mode of nutrition. There are some plants which are heterotroph, that is, they cannot synthesize their own food because of some or the other reason. They are unable to prepare their own food, or they are unable to take some important nutrients from the soil, or they are unable to take water and minerals from the soil. So for these demands they become heterotrophic in nature. The plants which depend for their nutrition on other plants, animals or decaying organic matter are known as heterotrophic plants. That is, these heterotrophic plants, either some of them depend on other plants, some of them can depend on other living things or other animals, or they can depend on dead and decaying organic matter. Dead and decaying means anything which has died and then it is rotting in the nature. Like you leave a piece of bread in open and then it starts decaying, you will find that something grows over it, fungus which we call. Or if an animal dies, then after few weeks or few days it is removed from the nature itself, because there are some decomposers in the nature. So some of the plants also, they become dependent on these dead and decaying organic matter. So heterotrophic plants, they can take their nutrition from other plants, they can take their nutrition from animals, or they can take their nutrition from dead and decaying matter. There is one more type of heterotrophic nutrition in which two different types of plants, they start living with each other and they supplement their requirements, which we will see later in this part. So first type is parasitic plants. These plants depend on other living plants for nutrition. So before that, what is the term parasite? Parasite means any living thing which is dependent on other living thing to such a limit that it becomes harmful for it. Very common example is worms in the intestine. They take the nutrition from the human body and make it diseased. Or the head louse, it takes the nutrition from the blood of the human and makes it problematic or becomes a problem, it creates problem. So parasitic means it is a plant or it is an animal which will depend on other organism, but it will also make it diseased. Such plants are termed as parasites, and the plants on which they depend are termed as host. So if a plant is growing on another plant, so the plant which is taking nutrition is parasite, and the plant which is giving nutrition is termed as host. Parasites are always harmful for their host. Parasitic plants take their nutrition from their host by their special roots termed as hostorial roots. We have studied about the hostorial roots in class 6 also in the modifications of leaves. Parasitic plants are of two types, total parasites and partial parasites. Total means complete, means it is taking nutrition also and it is taking water and minerals also. Partial means it will take only water and mineral, or it will take only food from its host. So total parasite means which depend on their host for host plants for both food and water. These types of plants have no or poorly developed leaves, and they have poorly developed root system. Example, Cuscuta. Cuscuta is also called as dodder or amarbale. This plant is of great medicinal value, though it is a parasite for its host plant, but for us or for human beings it is a great source of medicine, and it has a great medicinal value, especially in the disease called as osteoporosis. Osteoporosis is a disease in which the bones become weak. The next type of parasite is partial. Partial means incomplete. So these have green leaves but poorly developed root system. So they have poorly developed root system but they have green leaves. Example, mistletoe and loranthus. Now in the next slide we will see some of the very interesting images, so that you can, Cuscuta is very common, you can very easily identify. So this is a green leaf over which you can see yellowish strings. So these are actually Cuscuta, stem of Cuscuta. Cuscuta is generally called as a chlorophyll-less plant. It does not have leaf. So you get a MCQ question is name a leafless plant, or rootless plant, or name a plant which is without chlorophyll. It is Cuscuta. Here you can see how it is spiraling around the stem of the green host. And here in this figure you can see its hostorial roots. These are pin-like structures which will pierce inside the soft stem of the host plant and take all the nutrition. See here in this, it is very clearly showing the roots of dodder, or hostorial roots of dodder. And this is the last one over a tree. If you will see around yourself, you will very easily spot it. Over a huge tree there will be this net of yellowish stem. This is actually Cuscuta. Next is mistletoe and loranthus. So here you see a big tree which has bunches of leaves around it. These are not actually the leaves of this tree. You see the rest of the part of the tree is without leaves. There are completely no leaves, but only a specific part it is having leaves, and these are not its leaves. These are the leaves of a partial parasite, and see its leaves are green in color. So they can do photosynthesis, but their root system is very poorly developed. So they are depending on the host for their nutrition. See this one. Here you see a bunch of mistletoe is growing and the entire plant has no leaves at all. It's a parasite. It has made it diseased. This is loranthus, same just like mistletoe. Loranthus also, it has leaves. It can do photosynthesis, but both of them lack well developed root system. Now we move to the next type, that is insectivorous plants. So some plants they depend on the insects. Plants they depend on the insects for their nutrition. What happens that they become insectivorous? These plants are green, these have well developed root system, but still they are depending for their nutrition on the insect. Actually these types of plants they grow in the soil which is deficient in nitrogen, and nitrogen is very important for the growth of the living things, because nitrogen forms proteins, and proteins, what do they form? Protein forms our body, whether it is plant or animal, it forms their body. So insectivorous plants are the plants which depend on insects for nutrition. Such plants are found to grow in regions where soil is deficient in nitrogen. For example, in India, Assam and other northeastern states. So these plants they grow in soil deficient in nitrogen. They want nitrogen. So what they will do is they will eat the insect. They will depend on the insect. Insect body is completely made up of proteins. So they will digest the protein and get the nitrogen from those insects. Now why only insects? Why not any other animal? Simple. The plants are very simple organisms. The animals, they are not like complex like animals. So they depend on insects because insects, first of all, they are small in size and they are easy to digest. Plants, they don't have any digestive system like animals. So they will have certain modifications by which they can easily trap the insects and digest them easily to get nitrogen. So there are four types of insectivorous plants: pitcher plant, Venus flytrap, bladderwort, and sundew. In all the insectivorous plant, it is only the leaf which always gets modified, not the root, not the stem. In all these four plants, the leaf is getting modified. Now leaf gets modified to become very beautiful. Why beautiful? To attract the insects. So they become very beautiful structures. The insects are attracted to these structures and then the plant traps them and digests them to get nitrogen. Very first type is pitcher plant, which you have read in your previous classes also. Pitcher means pot like. So in pitcher plant, the leaf gets modified into a pot like or pitcher like insect, a pitcher like or pot like structure. When these pitcher like structures, they have a lid also, they have a cover also. So insect find it very fascinating. It goes and sit into this pitcher and falls inside the pitcher, and this pitcher is what? Filled with liquid. So it falls inside the pitcher, the lid closes, and the insect get digested by the plant to get nutrition. So in this plant, green leaf is modified into a pot or pitcher like structure. When insect sits on the rim of the pitcher, it slips into it. The pitcher has a lid also, which closes when insect is trapped inside it. The inner wall of pitcher has minute hair which secrete juices to digest insect and provide nitrogen to the plant. The next is Venus flytrap. Now Venus flytrap is also very beautiful in this insectivorous plant. Its leaf is modified to become a trap like, जाल के जैसा, just like a claw, पंजा. So Venus means beauty. Venus signifies beauty. Fly is insect and trap means a trap to catch the insect. So in Venus flytrap, the leaf becomes modified such that it can open and close like any trap. So from the midrib, the leaf can open and close. So when the insect sits on this beautiful leaf, it closes to trap the insect. We will see in the later slide also. I will show you the images. Then bladderwort. Bladder means the leaf is modified into balloon like structure. The insect sits on those small balloon. They find it very shiny and very attractive. They sit on them and slip into these, and they get digested by these digestive fluids. Sundew. Now sundew is a very beautiful insectivorous plant. Sun and dew means ओस की बूंदें. So in this, the leaf of the plant, it gets modified such that it has minute hair, and on the tip of those hair there are drops of the sticky fluid which shine too much in the sunlight. So they shine and that leaf looks very beautiful. So insect think that those sticky fluid are actually the nectar. So it goes and sit on those, and once it sit on those sticky drops, it gets stuck into it. Those are very sticky and it cannot fly. And the leaf curls, वो घूम जाती है इंसेक्ट को ट्रैप करने के लिए. So in the next slide I will show you these four images of the four insectivorous plant. But before that, note down something important. Pitcher plant is also known as Nepenthes. Venus flytrap is known as Dionia. Bladderwort is known as Urticularia, and sundew is known as Drosera. These are the scientific terms. You will write them down and learn them. So we will see these beautiful plants. So this is pitcher plant. You can see the pot like structures are hanging from the tips of the leaves. So this is a pitcher over which an ant is trying to enter. As soon as it will go inside, the cover over the pitcher will close. This is Venus flytrap. See, it is looking like a trap only. And the midrib is behaving like a hinge. When the insect will sit, the hinge will fold, the leaves will fold, and the insect cannot escape this leaf. This is a leaf of bladderwort. It is becoming balloon like. These are very small plants found inside the water. So this is looking so beautiful for the insect. And this is sundew. This is the leaf of sundew. It is looking so beautiful, red colored it is. Then on the top of those red colored tips there are drops of water, which is looking like nectar for the insects. And as soon as the insect will sit, this leaf will curl and not allow the insect to escape, and gradually it will be digested to give it nitrogen. Next type of heterotrophic plants are saprophytic plants. Saprophytic plants. Saprotroph means any living thing which depends on dead and decaying matter. There are two different terms: saprotrophic mode of nutrition and saprophytic mode of nutrition. Saprotroph is indicating any organism. It can be plant or it can be animal. So whether a plant, whether an animal, if it depends on dead and decaying matter, then it is known as saprotrophic or it is known as a saprotroph. But when a plant, saprophytic is specially indicating towards plant. Any plant which depends on dead and decaying matter, that is termed as saprophytic. Plants which take nutrition from dead and decaying matter are known as saprophytes. Now here if you will think, you will call fungus as a saprophyte, but fungus is not a saprophyte. Mushrooms are not the saprophytes. They are called as saprotrophs, because still the mushrooms, they are struggling to be categorized as plants or animals, because plants are green in color, mushrooms are not green in color. Plants have root, leaf, stem. Mushrooms don't have roots, leaves and stem. But we cannot keep them as animals also. Why? These you will learn in your later classes. So saprophytic plants, there are two examples of saprophytic plant, but mushroom is not a saprophytic plant, it is saprotroph. Fungi or mushroom also grow over dead and decaying matter, but it does not show all the characters of plant, hence we call it as a saprotroph. So but we can study them, you can give them as example of saprotrophic mode of nutrition. This is mushroom, this is coral root, and the last one is the Indian pipe. Coral roots and Indian pipe, they grow in the forest where the dead and decaying leaves or dead and decaying plants are there. They grow over them, get their nutrition, and also they help in the cleaning of the environment. So how will the dead and decaying leaves will be removed from the forest? There will be no scavenger going. So these plants, they grow over them, get the nutrition, and they also clean the environment. So that is the significance of saprophytic plants. They are cleaning the environment. Then the last type of heterotrophic plants are symbiotic plants. Sym means two. Sym means two. Biotic means living. Symbiotic is made from two words, where sym means together and biotic means living things. So when two living things, whether plant or animal, when they live together such that they are helpful to each other, they are called as symbiotic plants. And the organisms which living, they are called as symbionts. This particular portion is very important from your examination point of view. It is very easy to understand the symbiotic relationship. For example, renter and the landlord. What is the landlord doing? Giving some part of his house to the renter to live. And what is renter doing? It is giving the landlord the money. So both are benefited. Renter is getting a place to live and landlord is getting the money. Same is the situation with the symbiotic plants. So the type of association in which two plants live together such that both the partners are benefited by each other is known as symbiotic relationship or mutualism. Plants living in symbiotic association are known as symbionts. Example, lichens. Now these lichens are very important. These are formed by an association of algae and fungus. What is algae? काई जिसको बोलते हैं algae. Fungus, mushroom. So these are lichens are very primitive in their origin. They originated very earlier in the history of the earth evolution. So what happened that algae is green, it can prepare its photosynthesis, but it needs shade from the sunlight and it needs shade from the drying, whereas fungus needs nutrition. It is non-green but it can provide shade. So what they decide that we will live together. Algae says that I will give you the nutrition and in turn you protect me from the sunlight. So they start living together, and when they live together, then they are termed as one organism, that is called as lichen. So what are lichens? Lichen is a symbiotic association of an algae and of algae and fungi. In lichens, chlorophyll containing partner algae provides nutrition to fungus, and fungus provides its shade and protect it from drying or desiccation. Lichens are a source of many Ayurvedic medicines and homeopathic medicine. Lichens are of great importance for the human beings. First of all, they are sources of many kinds of medicines in Ayurveda and homeopathy. Then they are also very sensitive to the air pollution. Lichens, since they are very early in their origin, they are very primitive, so they are very sensitive to air pollution. So if we have to judge the quality of air of any particular place, the biologist or the environmentalist, they look to the growth of lichen in that particular area. If the growth of lichen is optimum or average, that means the air is good. But if the lichen's growth is less or depleted, that means the quality of air is very poor. Also, from the studies it has been found that lichens can grow over barren rocks. When there was no soil on the surface of the earth, it is found through studies that at that time also lichens were growing on the barren rocks. So they can grow over the rocks, and when they grow over the rocks, by their action they can turn the rocks into soil. So lichens are of great importance for the earth, for the human being. First of all, they are sources of Ayurvedic homeopathic medicines. They can help in the study of air pollution. They help in the formation of soil. So you get the question is, what are lichens? What are its importance? So lichens are a source of many Ayurvedic and homeopathic medicines. They are very sensitive to air pollution. Hence their growth in particular region is taken as a pollution indicator. If they are less in number, then it shows that the air quality of that place is poor. It is also found that lichens can grow over barren rocks. Thus, biologists consider that they are one of the important sources for formation of soil on Earth from the time of its origin. So these are the lichens. They can grow over rocks, they can grow over soil, they can grow over a piece of wood, or they can grow on the walls also. The old monuments like Red Fort or any forts of other regions, their lichens are found to be growing on the walls of the monuments also. Now we will revise how many types of heterotrophic nutrition are there. 4. Parasitic plants. Parasitic plants are of two types: partial parasites and total parasite. Mistletoe, example of partial parasite. Cuscuta, example of total parasite. Then insectivorous plants, pitcher plant, Venus flytrap and bladderwort. And also we had studied one more, sundew. Then next is saprophytic plant, example coral roots and Indian pipe. And the last one which we studied is symbiotic plant or lichens. Okay, now after the heterotrophic mode of nutrition, we come to the next part, that is nutritional requirement of the plant. Apart from glucose, plants also need proteins. We have studied in the insectivorous plants, they also need proteins. And what are the building blocks of proteins? Which element is required for the proteins? Nitrogen. So that means insectivorous plants were not getting this nitrogen, but rest of the plants, they are getting the nitrogen from the air. But whether it is a plant, whether it is an animal, nobody can utilize the nitrogen in the air. So air has 78% nitrogen, but no living things can utilize it directly from the air. The air in the nitrogen is fixed or added in the soil. There are very few types of bacteria. Bacteria are very small living organisms which can be seen only with the help of microscopes, and then also they look very small. So there are some bacteria in the soil. They can breathe that nitrogen, they can use that nitrogen in the air, and they change them into certain chemicals or certain compounds which are called as nitrogenous compounds. And when this nitrogen is converted to nitrogenous compound, it mixes in the soil, and from the soil plants they take up, from the soil they take up with the roots, and when the animals they eat those plants, they also get proteins. So the air in nitrogen is fixed or added in the soil in the form of nitrogenous compounds. These can be easily taken up by roots from the soil, and then plants utilize them to synthesize proteins. Hence, when animals eat the plant, they also get proteins. Now here you get two questions: what is nitrogen fixation and what is nitrogen cycle? Fixation means adding or fixing nitrogen in the form of nitrogenous compound in the soil. So the addition of nitrogen from air to soil is termed as nitrogen fixation. But you also know that this percentage of nitrogen in air, it remains constant. It does not change. It does not change. How it is happening? It is happening because when the plants and animal die, these nitrogen it is released in the soil, and they take up these it is released in the soil, and this nitrogenous compound they can be sent back into the air. So in the soil there are another type of bacteria which can convert the nitrogenous compound in the soil to the nitrogen. So what is happening? From the air the nitrogen is coming to the soil, and then plants and animals are making it into proteins, and when they die, then these nitrogenous compound they come back to the soil. So from the soil it again mixes into the air. So what is happening? Cycle is taking place from air to soil, from soil to air. So cycling of nitrogen from air to living things and back to the air is termed as nitrogen cycle. This is the nitrogen cycle. So here you can see nitrogen in the air. This nitrogen fixation takes place. Nitrogen fixation can take place with the help of bacteria in the soil or by the lightning also. Whenever there is thunderstorm or lightning, there is a huge lot of energy. So that energy can convert nitrogen into nitrogenous compound. So first thing which happens is nitrogen in the air by nitrogen fixation is added in the soil in the form of nitrogenous compound. Second step is that these nitrogenous compounds they are absorbed by the roots. Third step, plants prepare proteins from these nitrogenous compounds for themselves and for the other animals also. So these plants are eaten by the animals. The plants they die, animals also they die or defecate. Defecate means they excrete. They throw the unwanted waste out of their body. So plants they die, animals they die and defecate, and these nitrogenous compounds are returning to the soil. In the soil there are another set of bacteria which can convert this nitrogenous compound into the nitrogen, and the nitrogen is returned back into the air. So that is the nitrogen cycle. Children, you will see this and write it down. It is very important. You get the question is what is nitrogen fixation, or define nitrogen cycle, or you can also get the question is what is nitrogen cycle, show it with the help of a diagram. So this is a well labeled diagram I have drawn for you. You will write it down and learn it. So steps in nitrogen cycle: conversion of atmospheric nitrogen to nitrogenous compounds by lightning and by bacteria in soil. Number 2, these compounds are absorbed by roots of the plants. Plants utilize it to prepare proteins. Number 3, animals eat plant to get proteins. Number 4, when plants and animals die, these compounds return to the soil by the action of decomposers. Animals also defecate to release nitrogenous compounds in the soil. A different type of bacteria present in soil convert these nitrogenous compounds to nitrogen and release them in air. The next is replenishment of soil nutrition. Replenishment means enriching or making the soil rich in nutrition. So what are the farmers doing to add nutrition in the soil? They are adding fertilizers or manure. You must be having flower pot. So what do? You add the fertilizers or the manure, खाद डालते हैं उसमें. So we can also do the nourishment of the soil. So nutrition required for the growth of plants can be replenished in the soil by following ways. Naturally, by nitrogen cycle. Naturally it is taking place in the environment. It can be done artificially by adding fertilizers and nutrients or fertilizers and manures, or it can be done by planting leguminous plants in the field. So now what are these leguminous plants? Leguminous plants are those which have pod like fruits like pea, gram, mustard, beans, जिनमें बाहर का एक आउटर कवर होता है और उसके अंदर सीड्स होते हैं, जैसे मटर, चना, mustard, beans, French beans. These are all leguminous plants. Now these leguminous plants have a bacteria called as rhizobium in their roots. It can fix atmospheric nitrogen in the soil, making it very fertile. That means these leguminous plants, they don't need any fertilizer, they don't need any manure. They have the bacteria in their roots also. So that means here there is another symbiotic association. A bacteria called as rhizobium is living in a symbiotic association with the roots of the leguminous plant. Now roots of the leguminous plant are providing this bacteria place to live, and rhizobium in turn is providing its nitrogenous compound. So this bacteria rhizobium is a symbiotic organism. It provides nitrogenous compound to plant in which it lives, and in turn roots give it a secure place for its survival. So what are leguminous plants? Plants like peas, tamarind, or you can say groundnut, the pod like. There is an outer cover and inside there are seeds. These are called as leguminous plants. And all such plants, they have bacteria called as rhizobium in their roots. These plants, they don't need any manure and fertilizer for their growth. The rhizobium in their roots provide it by fixing the atmospheric nitrogen. So here in the first figure you can see the leguminous plant pod like, the fruits which have pods, outside cover, inside it there is seeds. And the second below it you will see the roots. These are the roots of a pea plant. You can see that the roots have certain ball like structure. Inside these balls these bacteria live. Now next to this pea figure you will see that it is showing that inside when these roots of these pea plants or gram plants or French bean plants, they were seen under the microscope. Why they are circular, why they are having these round structures. So scientists wanted to know what is the different thing in these plants that they can live without any fertilizer, or why their roots are having these ball like structure. So when they studied it, they found that inside these roots there are living some bacteria which are called as rhizobium. So rhizobium is a symbiotic organism which lives in the roots of leguminous plant like pea. So rhizobium bacteria have ability to take atmospheric nitrogen and convert it into soluble forms or nitrogenous compound. These bacteria live in the roots of leguminous plants. So we can enrich the soil by three ways. Again you see, naturally by nitrogen cycle which is taking place in the nature, artificially by adding fertilizers and manures and nutrients, and by planting leguminous plants in the field. Why leguminous plants? Because they have rhizobium bacteria in their roots.